I'm Hans, Nohr's newest captain. Who wants an axe to the neck? I'm gonna use you to get ahead. You better work real hard.
For those of you running out of orbs thanks to this holiday season, or for those of you not exactly jazzed about 3 new healer demotes, we have a very interesting free-to-play unit to tide us over till 2023. Hans is a general from Nohr and loyal subject to King Garen. He's a rather relevant villain in Fates and is a pretty bad dude all around. Maybe his effort paid off though, because in Fae, Hans got treated very well. He will be an Axe Infantry unit. We have a lot of those guys to choose from, but Hans does stand out quite a bit. He has 46 HP, 45 attack, 39 speed, 35 defense, and 21 resistance. On top of a very impressive base attack and speed, he gets attack and speed super boons too. Hans is another berserker type unit with some okay HP and defense. He drops a ton of res for some very impressive offensive stats. I believe he ties with Charlotte for highest attack for all Axe Infantry, and that includes Dragon Flowers. Is also just one of the highest attack stats in the game period. While he isn't the fastest Axe Infantry in the game, Hans is not very far behind either. This guy is gonna hurt a ton. Adding to Hans's ridiculous damage potential is his unique axe, Aurgelmir, 16 might, plus 3 more attack, Jesus. If Hans initiates combat or is solo, he gets another plus 6 attack and speed, he makes a guaranteed follow-up attack, and also reduces one hit by 40%. His next counterattack then deals empowered damage based on the total damage he received, and like other similar skills, this includes any other damage reduction sources also active at the time. It's gonna reset after combat. Good lord, why did they make this guy so good? Aurgelmir is absolutely cracked for a heroic girl unit, and further ramps up Hans's damage. Tons of attack and speed with damage reduction is amazing, and he empowers his counterattack if you can't take him out. You then get a free follow-up attack. Hans is no means slow, but that free follow-up allows him to instead cancel out follow-up prevention effects, which can simulate offensive no follow-up for Hans, assuming he wins that speed check. If Aurgelmir didn't have this effect, it would still be a cool weapon, but that is a really good add-on for Hans. I'm honestly floored with this weapon, and it doesn't have the strictest activation conditions either, initiate or just be solo. The more I look at it, Aurgelmir has a lot of fun build potential. To make you feel bad for actually investing in Hans, he also has some decent fodder in his base kit. You got Dragon Fang for his high base attack. Attack speed ideal 3 was just on host, but it's also on Mariel as a demo. Still a newer skill I'd rather see than some of the other heroic girl standards. Last, we got Rouse attack and speed 3, plus 6 attack and speed self buffs when alone. Even though we've had the tier 4 in a couple units this year, this will be the only way to get the tier 3 without a 5-star only unit. While there are some other good Rouse buffs on free-to-play units, if you want full damage potential, then Hans is your go-to. Not only does this guy have good base attack and speed, but his weapon and base kit only grant more attack and speed. Actually just plus 17 extra attack and speed from this kit altogether. That's pretty wild. If you want to merge up Hans, the neutral nature is going to grant plus 1 HP attack and speed, totally fine to keep. But man, double super boons and attack and speed are so tempting. If you don't want to get both, then either or can be good depending on your build. We can do some free-to-play comparisons here, but obviously Aurgelmir makes Hans stand out so much. In recent times, our other heroic girl berserker type units are Young Boyd, Brigand Boss, and Gonzalez. Boyd will be the most interesting though, since he also has a unique axe. He's also pretty similar to Hans, going for the super low res stat spread. Large War Axe is pretty fun, making Boyd very strong on odd turns. He gets a massive plus 10 attack and speed, ignores attack and speed debuffs, and deals true damage based on 15% of his attack. Lots of damage output. However, on even turns, Boyd's just gonna get plus 5 attack and speed, at least it's something. Hans and Boyd are true berserkers, going for big damage hits, but I honestly think Hans might be better. Even though Hans needs to get hit for his empowered counterattack, he also gets 40% DR and that free follow-up. Both of those perks are super valuable to builds and opens up a lot more options. Just the damage reduction alone is kind of amazing because these guys are not focusing on defenses at all. 40% DR can definitely save Hans from a fatal hit. For some other comparisons, Hans does make his way into being one of the faster Axe Infantry units. He isn't as fast as the Ninja Shamir, Hana, and Liftfish trio, but he's right behind them, and his weapon gives speed too. He brings a lot more base attack, but is leaving himself open to magical hits. Again, the 40% TR is very important. In terms of signable 3 to 4-star demotes, there are 2 recent units to talk about. In the Berserker crew is Atlas. He is last gen, but he also has the trainee stat boost. Atlas has pretty similar stats, but has more res, which might fit more generalist builds better. However, he doesn't have a unique axe. Arcane Downfall can be used for a more defensive setup though. In the faster category of units like Shamir or Echidna is female Shez. She has great speed, good base attack, and much higher base res at the cost of some HP. Shez also has the Crimson War Axe, which has some similarities to Aurgelmir, plus 6 attack and speed, 40% damage reduction, and plus 3 flat speed instead of attack. Instead of a follow-up and empowered counterattacks, Shez gets breath type cooldown, which is also pretty good. To be honest, Shez might prefer the Arcane Downfall Axe, but you got options at least. Overall, despite Axe Infantry getting some really decent free-to-play options in the last year, Hans will make a name for himself. Let's now talk about general playstyle and builds. Base kit for Hans is honestly pretty dang good considering it's just more attack and speed. You could run a solo Sacred Seal, but if you just initiated in Blade Session or Swiss Sparrow is fine. Heavy Blade is good too, although even with it, you're not going to proc Dragon Fang in one round. Might want to switch to Draconic Aura, Glimmer, or Mumbo. In general, Hans is a similar playstyle to Nyx, whose Ginun Gingop also has damage reduction and empowered counterattacks. However, because Aurgelmir has a built-in follow-up attack, Hans doesn't necessarily need no follow-up to ensure he doubles like Nyx does. Ideally, Hans initiates, survives an enemy counterattack with his damage reduction, and has the speed and follow-up to use that empowered hit. Hans will hit hard, and his only major issue is getting a special going. You're going to have to use 2 cooldown options if you want to activate them in one round, or you need Heavy Blade. Now since Hans doesn't need no follow-up, you have more options in the B slot, even for budget skills. First off, Desperation. Hans will get low if the enemy hits him hard, and 40% DR is not going to sustain forever. With Desperation and the built-in follow-up, as long as Hans outspeeds, he gets to double immediately. Considering he has 40% damage reduction, this is almost like a makeshift Frenzy and no follow-up build. That's pretty amazing. If you only care about one good initiation, you can take Guard to not get hit by an enemy special. If you want to go for high risk, high reward, take Wrath 3. If Hans gets low enough and procs a Moon or Glimmer on the second hit, you get 10 extra true damage on top of the empowered counter. You also can use this ideal for enemy phase baiting with something like Steady Breath. Obviously though, Hans is not going to last very long unless you swap 2 defensive res boosting skills. It will be tough to tank magical damage even with the 40% DR. You're also going to need to be solo on the enemy phase, so this does limit pure defensive builds. If you got premium fodder, dodge B skills sound pretty nice. They give extra insurance if the enemy has brave attacks or if Hans just gets hit twice somehow. Do note though that the empowered damage from Aurgelmir only counts the first hit Hans takes. If a brave weapon hits him twice and you got something like Flaying or a dodge B skill, even if the second hit also is reducing damage, you're not going to add that to Hans' next counter. Since we're on this topic, let's talk about Miracle. If you've never seen Miracle Nyx, it's a hilarious interaction, and Hans can do the same thing. Miracle counts as reduced damage for the sake of empowering Hans' counterattack. If the enemy were doing something like 100 damage but Miracle procced, Hans still counts the overkill damage for his empowered hit. You could do a very cheesy strategy of pre-charging Miracle and tanking Hans' stats with something like Life and Death. You want him to take more damage, but Miracle has to activate or he's dead. You also will probably not be able to reset this tactic for another go. You could use Shield Pulse, Times Pulse, and Infantry Pulse support, but this is a super niche, if not funny tactic. For what it's worth, Special Sparrow does work with Miracle and defensive specials, but the new tier 4 effect of piercing damage reduction will not work with it, at least I believe. I'm certain it has to only be a damage special. You could try a distant counter plus Special Sparrow for counterattack setup, but Hans needs cooldown reduction. He also has to be solo, and again, this is not going to work for multiple longer fights. There is possible use for an offensive Special Sparrow 4 with Vital Astra setup. That would give extra damage reduction, plus Hans can ignore enemy damage reduction skills. You can pair this with Surge Sparrow to actually get some sustain. If you want to go for big cooldown specials, then you could use Heavy Blade 3 or 4. Times Pulse is good too. If you want Guard, you can access it with the Defense debuffs and Seal Defense 4. If you want more mixed phase survivability, then maybe Attack Smoke 4 would be nice too. That would give Hans that follow-up denial. For the most part, you can do a lot of fun things since Hans has that built-in follow-up attack. You don't necessarily need no follow-up, but it also means Hans is more open to getting doubled by slower units, and his 40% DR is one hit only. Like a true berserker, Hans is more about just going for the kill. Since he has the stat spread, I'll also throw out a mention for the Shuriken Cleaver Plus. One of the highest attack units also has pretty good speed. That is perfect for that ninja weapon if you wanted brave attacks. So, should you promote Hans to 5 stars? I feel like this is a definite promote, at least a copy just to have. In terms of stats, straight up one of the highest base attack stats you'll find in the whole game, and it's accompanied by a pretty decent speed stat with super boons in both as well. Amazing stuff for a free unit. The downside is that Hans will be taking some heavy return damage, especially from anything magic. He isn't a free kill though, thanks to Aurgelmir giving 40% damage reduction. That does so much for Hans, and he empowers his next attack, so if you don't take him out, then the guy gets really angry. In addition, having a built-in follow-up despite being pretty fast already means Hans can cancel out enemy follow-up denial effects. This opens up his build options, but it is focused more on offense. If you want a more all-around fast axe infantry, then Female Shez or Ninja Shamir and Hana could be better options, especially with the Arcane Downfall Axe. I think that is fine though. Hans is supposed to be the higher risk, high reward berserker. Unlike Young Boyd though, Hans gets that little defensive help, and honestly, even with things like Special Spiral 4 coming in to negate damage reduction, it's still an incredible ability to have. I have to say, very impressive showing for our first Book 7 Grand Hero Battle unit. Let's all pray we keep a similar trend going as last year with mainly surprisingly decent free units. That's all I got for this video, and while I don't really plan on using Hans myself, I do want a 5-star, 1 copy. Currently, I'm in the dilemma of deciding if I want to decide to invest in Female Shez and actually give her the Arcane Downfall. I only have 1 Gauntlet though, and I was previously planning to give it to my Summer Seth. I was hoping it would have a built-in follow-up like Aurgelmir here, so I could run a Kanto skip. Decisions. Let me know your own thoughts on Hans, and maybe you'll decide to invest in him. I think that would be a fun time. Next up, to round out the update, I'll be going over the Ephemeral 12 common manuals for this month. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.